What's up, guys? Welcome to JBH Fight Briefing. How are you all doing tonight? So, some news broke. Things are a little weird. Let's all just take a deep breath here. Now, this news broke about an hour or so ago, but let me just let you guys know, this is supposed to be a fight briefing. We are going to be covering the main card of UFC Fight Night 162 later on in the show, but right now, I think it's important for us to discuss something that has just recently appeared on the news. Now, I will be having Mystic Moss show up momentarily to discuss his opinion on it, but let me just tell you guys what happened first. And I gotta say, thank you to V-Neck, for those of you guys who are the OGs and know who the OGs are. In fact, he's the one who told us about it, and he told us literally right when the news broke. And now it's just a big thing. And it is a big thing because it kind of jeopardizes the card of UFC 244. Nate Diaz says that he is out of the UFC 244 main event versus Jorge Masvidal after testing positive for a banned substance. This is mind-blowing because everybody's on steroids.
Wonderful.
So just 9 days out from UFC 244, we all know UFC 244 will be taking place next week. The main event kind of had fans feeling like it was all a dream. The BMF title was, like a weird thing. Some people were on board with it, some people were not, but a lot of people had opinions on it. Nate Diaz revealed tonight in a social media post on Twitter that he tested positive for elevated levels of a banned substance and will not make the trip to New York's Madison Square Garden for a much anticipated main event that everybody's been looking forward to, which is none other than the BMF title belt against Jorge Masvidal, right? Although the UFC and USADA, their drug testing partner, neither of them have really spoken out yet or confirmed the news, Diaz denied knowingly taking any substances. He explained that the finding might be from a tainted supplement or what have you, but he says he doesn't eat meat and everything. So let me just show you the post that he put out here tonight, and you guys can judge for yourselves. How about that? Nate Diaz says, "You're all on steroids, not me." Here's what he says. "I'm not going to make it out to NYC for Fight Week next week because they say I tested with elevated levels that they say might be from some tainted supplements. I call false on that. I only take whole food or natural food supplements. I don't even eat meat. So until the UFC, USADA, or whoever is fucking with me fixes it, I won't be competing. I'm not going to play their game and try to hide it or keep quiet as they suggested. I'm not going to have my name tainted as a cheater like these other motherfuckers who keep quiet until after the fight just so that they can get paid. Fucking cheaters. I don't give a fuck about some money over my dignity and my legacy. I'm not playing along with this bullshit. I am not staying quiet and figuring it out after the fight. That's cheating. So fight game, I will see you when I see you. Sincerely, the realest, baddest motherfucker in the game." I don't know what to think right now. I mean, all of this happened so fast, and I was stressing out, changing everything around for the stream tonight, that I didn't even get a chance to formulate my own opinion yet on what's happening. Now, Mystic Moss did kind of enter this question of, could it be a hoax? I don't know if it could be a hoax because the USADA has come out with like these things about how fighters are not supposed to tell people about it until it's not a false positive or whatever. And they're doing that to protect the fighter because fighters usually they get a tainted name, like Nate Diaz said. So I don't know if it's a hoax just because USADA hasn't spoken out about it yet, but it is a little weird to me because Nate Diaz has often criticized steroid users in the MMA fight game. But I don't see Nate Diaz as someone who would blatantly or intentionally abuse a substance for his advantage inside the cage. That being said, it's not entirely impossible that he has taken a supplement of some sort that perhaps he might have known about, and he's took it anyways. Regardless, we don't really know the full story yet. There's more to be updated. Ariel Helwani tweeted about it. Actually, we got a lot of tweets about it. In fact, let me go into it for you. Here are some of the tweets that some people have put out about this situation. Jorge Masvidal says, "You not the baddest mofo in the game. I am, but you are one of the cleanest mofos at Nate Diaz. I'll see you November 2nd. I know your name is clean. I don't need U.S. anti-doping to tell me shit." So Jorge Masvidal, of course, being on Nate Diaz's side, says, "Listen, I know you're not cheating. Let's keep this as if the fight's still going." I respect that. I actually respect that a lot because I think a lot of people want to see this fight.
You can't stop the Siberian Express. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
Drunk Savage!
Last MMA-Holes New York meetup, Ferguson pulled out. Now this shit with Diaz for the next meetup.
Yes.
You guys really are a curse.
We are. It's funny that you say that because I was thinking that as I was putting this together it's funny that the one time Moss wants to go to Madison Square Garden to promote another fight, it's once again another fight that something happens to the main event. It's a little weird, right? So maybe we are the curse. Maybe the MMA-Holes are the curse. So I have to give credit to Jorge Masvidal on this. I mean, he handled it well. PBR.
Hey. How you be, JBH?
What's up, PBR?
Hi to all the wonderful, wonderful people out there. Waving.
Waving, PBR. Now, like I said, I will bring Moss in here in a second to get his opinion because I told him that I think it would be a robbery for me to give this news and for him not to give his opinion because I know you guys value his opinion a lot. So I will be bringing him in a second. But let me just go through the rest of what is on here real quick. All right. So that was Jorge Masvidal's response. John Jones tweets out, "I know how you feel, like someone is setting you up. That's exactly how I felt. At times, it's going to feel like a pretty hopeless situation, but maybe it's not. You can't just give up and do nothing. This is a different type of fight, man. You owe it to your fans to fight."
Wonderful.
Now, of course, John Jones is going to speak out about this because what better way to defend himself against his accusations of steroid use with the picograms than to talk about a fighter who was just recently busted by USADA and claims that he did not take supplements himself. Good on you, John Jones. I give you a round of applause. That was a good move. Whatever. Let's move on. Dylan Dennis decided to tweet out, "Guess when Nate Diaz said..." Oh, you're going to have to wait. JT with the $1. Thank you, JT. Dylan Dennis says, "Guess when Nate Diaz said everyone was on steroids, everybody's on steroids. He was including himself," with a laughing emoji. Now, I got to give it to Dennis here because if there's any moment to capitalize on the hate on Nate Diaz, if you're not a Nate Diaz fan, which I am, I like Nate Diaz, but if you're not, this would be the time to do it, right? Because, like I said, Nate Diaz has spoken out before against cheaters, against steroid users, so this would be the perfect time to capitalize.
You can't stop the Siberian Express. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
Conor Hernandez.
Hey Holes. We out here. Thank you JBH and Moss for this channel. You guys don't understand how thankfully for you guys. You guys always make my day. No matter how shitty my days are, when you guys stream it makes the day better. Thank you guys, love you.
Love you, Conor Hernandez, and just know that we would not be here without you guys. So thank you, Conor Hernandez. Thank you. Now, I do want to get back to Jorge Masvidal for a second, because that not only did Masvidal tweet the one that I had originally showed you, but Kamaru Usman decided to say something about this entire situation, saying, "I'll fight in November and December. That's what a BMF does. Now come and see me." And he hashtagged the champ in MSG at Dana White and Ali Abdelaziz. Now, Jorge Masvidal was not just going to let this one slide. He says, "Shut the fuck up. You wouldn't fight me with 7 weeks notice. You not fighting me on 10 days notice." Oh! No. All right. Now let's talk about what could potentially happen here, right? If this is indeed a positive test, and this is not a false positive, and Nate Diaz is out of that fight, what could be the result of that? Do they move Kelvin Gastelum and Darren Till up to the main event? Do they replace Nate Diaz with another fighter? Perhaps someone suggested Leon Edwards, which to me is a little interesting, but I don't really know if he would qualify as a BMF contender. If we're really going to take this BMF belt seriously, why not the man who made it? Why not Conor McGregor, right? Conor McGregor would be one. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen his press conference or clips of his press conference from today when he was promoting his Proper 12 whiskey back in Russia, but it would really make sense if Conor McGregor was one of the ones who kind of challenged for that belt. It doesn't look good for McGregor. Given the fact that he's already created the design for the belt, we know that he has the intention to kind of get in there and perhaps challenge the winner. But if there's not going to be a winner, why doesn't he step in, right? Now, McGregor is currently under investigation in 2 separate sexual assault cases in Ireland, so I'm not really sure how that's going to play out, if that's going to perhaps hinder his ability to get into a fight right now. But he brings in the money. So with that being said, I think after bringing up Conor McGregor, it would only be fitting to have Mystic Moss come in here and give his opinion on what is going to happen with the BMF title and where are we going to go. So I'm going to transfer over here and we're going to get Mystic Moss in here. Mystic Moss, please come join us. Greg Lilu says, you just lost me on that one. Well, listen, it has been, proposed. Even CBS Sports proposed it, right? Let me change over the mics here. Does this reach that far?
You can't stop the Siberian Express. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
Garbage truck juice. Garbage truck
Regardless
juice.
of what happens in the main event for UFC 244, don't let this distract you from the fact that with the correct picks at Pulse, Reloaded gets an MMA-Holes segment. Or maybe gets to provide intro dialogue to this fight briefing program.
Uh-oh. What'd you do, Moss? All right. Well, we'll discuss that. Don't worry. We'll discuss the whole Pulse Reloaded thing. But first, I would like to introduce Mystic Moss over here. Hello, Mystic Moss.
Hi, thank you for having me on your show, Jesse.
Now, I know you're much more opinionated, especially with the whole Conor part coming in, about the BMF thing. What do you think about Nate Diaz potentially popping positive for steroids?
I'm not surprised, motherfucker. I'm not surprised, motherfucker. What are we doing here? The BMF belt is retarded.
Yeah.
Right? We all know this. We all can agree on this. BMF belt is ridiculous. I did want to see the fight. And now with this happening here, you have a pickle. The UFC's in a little bit of a pickle. This is a peculiar situation here because Nate Diaz is the one that releases the statement. He said basically that they were telling him not to say anything. Someone said something to not say anything about this.
Right.
And I'm confused. I'm really, really confused here.
Yeah.
I'm horny at the same time because if by some chance they can drag McGregor into this fight, it would be the fight to make, right?
Right.
There's a lot of things that have to fall into place for that to happen. And Conor's in Russia right now. It is happening at 170, right? That's the weight that this is happening at. So, I mean, basically it's Conor's walk-around weight. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he's ready to take this fight. And if he does, he's a certified lunatic. We all know he's nuts, and he'd be a complete maniac for taking this fight.
Why? Well, I don't think so. I disagree.
He would be a complete, unless this is all a fucking gimmick.
Now, that's what I was going to ask you about because I
something's
told them,
fishy.
Yeah, I told them that you presented the idea to me that perhaps this is a hoax and maybe this is a publicity stunt. And that's not a bad opinion or a bad idea to have. It could very much be a publicity stunt.
There are some things that don't make sense here. And we have a super chat. Hello, super chat.
Lyra Leaky Fawn.
Only Conor can save this card. Nate is on steroids.
Fucking guy's a cheater, I guess. I don't know. The whole tainted supplements, and then John Jones comes swooping in. It's like, I got you, buddy. Another one, tainted supplements. Jump aboard.
Right.
Here's the thing. Whether it's tainted or not, and look at Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero had that lawsuit, and you got to think that Nate has something here if he clearly didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
I don't believe that Nate did do something wrong. I do believe it could have been a tainted supplement type deal. But it doesn't look good for Nate.
Right.
Everyone's on steroids, that whole spiel, that whole bullshit. Now that goes right out the fucking window because he isn't fighting because of steroids. You know, it's not marijuana, guys. This is steroids. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, he smoked weed. No. This is steroids. So now it's like, okay.
All right. So do you think, though, because I had mentioned before that USADA, the whole new, like, they're not supposed to talk about a thing is actually USADA thing. They're doing it to protect the fighters. Like Sean O'Malley, they told him, don't talk about it until we know. And Sean O'Malley came out and talked about it anyways. But they suggest that the fighters don't talk about it until they know if it's a false positive because they don't want that kind of image on their name. So that's why Nate Diaz came out and talked about it. For all we know, this could be a false positive.
I believe this is what I think's happening right now. Now there's my theory that, you know, there's like something, my conspiracy theory that's also there too. But I'm going to say what I truly believe is going on right now. Okay. The reason why the UFC hasn't said anything is because they're scurrying around trying to find an opponent for Jorge Masvidal. Wait, so you think Nate Diaz is completely out? Yes. They're looking for an opponent now. I do believe it. And the reason why I say that is because look at Ariel Helwani's tweet. Ariel Helwani did say that this is real. This is not, it's still developing the story, but this is legit. This is real. Nate Diaz is not fighting on this card. Wow. Now you can say, all right, maybe Nate Diaz is pulling another fast one here. He's done this before, played games, not showing up to press conferences, this and that. You know, maybe he's playing games. It's not a game. He's not fighting on this card. So what I think is happening right now is the UFC is scrambling. They're like, what can we do here? They're probably begging Conor McGregor, hey, you're probably on weight right now. I know this is crazy. You wanted to fight in December. This is a chance to make yourself a god again. Be that Conor McGregor status again. You know, wipe everything clear, save the card. Right. I have a feeling they're fucking willing to throw a boatload of money at the guy, and, you know, he had a part of this belt. That's probably what they're looking to do. If that's not going to happen, they're looking in other directions. There's not many options. Okay, now I have a question for you. Now, I was reading an article by CBS Sports, and one of the things that they presented, or one of the opportunities for Masvidal, was none other than Leon Edwards. What do you think about that? He supposedly is ready. Leon supposedly is training, and he is ready. Right. And he is a pretty bad motherfucker. He's on a nice little win streak, but no one gives a fuck about Leon Edwards. So Leon Edwards will not fill in. No. Really? I'm going to go with no. And if that is the main event for the BMF belt, I demand everyone not buy that pay-per-view because that's a complete hunk of shit. That's ridiculous. Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal, which is an interesting fight because of the whole 3-piece and soda deal. Right. But let's be serious here. If that's what you're telling me the baddest motherfucker belt is, which is already stupid as it is, I don't give a fuck about that. I really don't give a fuck. I want to see a circus. If you're going to have The Rock come in there and give the belt to the winner, say Leon Edwards wins this fight, which he probably could beat Masvidal. Leon Edwards wins this fight. You mean to tell me The Rock's going to put the belt around Leon Edwards and we're going to give a shit? No one's going to care. No one's going to give a fuck about that. You want a circus. The circus is McGregor. That is the circus right there. No. All right. That's the savior. It's a better fight. Okay. All right. Well, no, I understand your hype for it, especially being a Conor McGregor fan. Like I understand that you're very hyped up for this. But Conor McGregor does have 2 sexual assault cases right now. Fuck the assault. He has a lot of legal issues he's taking care of, and he is on tour to promote his own business. So something's telling me he's not ready to come back this December. No. He did say that he was looking to come back December 14th. The UFC kind of, nixed that, so he won't be coming back till next year. I don't think he's going to be ready for December for this year, or even let alone November. Listen, on paper, you just saw him do a press conference today, and it was a cheesy, retarded thing in Russia. I don't know what's going on, but the big news was he is going to fight in January, right? This is the fight. January is when he's going to come back. He says it doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't care what the opponent is. Even Cowboy Cerrone put a little Proper 12 Bud Light thing together saying that that's the fight that's going to happen. I don't think he is ready. I really don't. And if he is really serious on making a comeback, this would be extraordinarily dangerous. Right. Fighting a Jorge Masvidal who just knocked out Darren Till. Who was the other guy that he finished? I forgot. Forgive me for forgetting this shit. Ben Askren? Oh, Ben Askren, excuse me. Yeah, put the knee in Askren's chin. Yeah. He's on fire right now. For Conor to come in here and take this fight, it would be one of the biggest, baddest moves Conor's ever made. The biggest. Let me play this over here. Yeah. Conor at UFC 196. Right. RDA falls out because he was on his period, right? He didn't have to take a fight here. He didn't have to do anything. Yeah. What happens? Nate Diaz swoops in. He's like, fuck it, let's go at 170. He could have just sat there and did nothing.
Imagine Bisping comes back and wins the BMF.
Oh, God.
They dig up that?
Evergreen. First of all, that would never happen. That's absolutely ridiculous. But that I mean, could you imagine? He
No.
comes back, he puts
I
that
can't.
new
I can't.
eyeball in, and
I can't imagine that.
He
Thank you
gets
for
the
the
belt.
donation. Yeah, there's not many options right now.
yeah.
There are not many options. McGregor would be something that would be insanity. It would be
Right.
absolute insanity if they can get McGregor. And I feel that the UFC right now is going out there and trying to make the moves. V-Neck, when he called up, he says maybe this could happen.
You
It's the
can't
best
stop
bet.
the Siberian Express.
Felony.
Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
Fuck McGregor, you need a real nigger to replace Nate. Dana, call my black ass. I'm down for this circus, just cut the check, motherfucker. Now where's the crack hat?
Oh, God.
And fuck Candy Lane.
That's horrible.
You think Felony should fill in?
I think Felony should fill in. I think he could be the baddest motherfucker. You never know.
Now, all right. I know the chat room's on fire. We have about 500 people
But
watching.
before you go, I want to ask you, or before you give your whatever you're gonna say, I wanted to ask you what you think of Kelvin Gastelum versus Darren Till as the main event. Hold on one second. Coach Mikey Ditka.
Masvidal versus Till.
That's exactly where I was going. So, Kelvin Gastelum versus Darren Till, of course, is the co-main event. But what if they move one of them up?
No.
Either they move the entire fight up as the main event, or they move one of them up to fight Masvidal and then give the other person a dancing partner.
First of all, Till got knocked the fuck out. Does not deserve a rematch. And he's not a bad motherfucker. He's on a 2-fight
But what if they
losing
move
streak.
Gastelum? How about Gastelum?
Gastelum just came off a loss as well.
But
So-
not as severe. Darren Till's had a pretty bad.
It was a
losing
great
streak.
fight Gastelum was in. But, I mean, he came off a loss. And, that's just dumb. The co-main, and now if Masvidal's not fighting and the main event is Masvidal, is Till versus Gastelum,
Yeah.
that's ridiculously
You don't like
stupid.
that?
No, it's horrible. It's a great fight.
Right.
It's a great fight. A co-main event, I'm cool with that. But as the main event for this UFC event in Madison Square Garden with no titles. I mean, they were supposed to have that stupid BMF belt, and you mean to tell me Masvidal versus Gastelum is the main event?
Yeah.
Right now, the UFC is going crazy trying to figure out what to do.
Now, Coach Mikey Ditka in the chat says, I agree, but they're desperate. And he makes a good point. If they're so desperate for a fight, you don't think they're actually going to do that?
No, I don't think they're going to do that.
I feel that they might.
Then they get rid of the BMF belt.
Desperation makes you do crazy things.
What?
If there
Ahmed.
is a fighter I give the benefit of the doubt is Nathan Diaz. John Jones and Conor should suck D. Love you guys. KR $55.
They should suck D? All right. It's hot. All right, so talk about Nate. The Nate situation.
Right.
And this is probably other than the fight getting canceled over
Right.
here, this is the biggest deal here. Nate Diaz, who preaches being the clean fighter, has just got popped for steroids. Now, the new people jumping in, think about this.
Yes.
Okay? Just let this sink into your head. This could be tainted supplements, and he could have got fucked over. Fighters have been fucked over before. So I'm not saying he is a flat-out cheater.
Right.
But how does this make Nate Diaz look here? Someone that's been waving the flag of the clean fighters.
Yes.
And that statement, people are saying that statement that Nate Diaz releases a badass statement. No, that statement is a mess. It's a complete fucking mess. Jesse read it earlier, and I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, this guy's, he's all fucked up. I'm happy that he went out there and said something. He didn't just run away. That's kind of cool. But at the same time, I'm reading this thing and I'm like, oh, you're fucked, man. You are fucked. What he should have done is been like, fuck this. Fuck this. This is bullshit. This is ridiculous. It's fake. It's a lie. And that's it. He had this long statement.
Right.
And this is not Nate Diaz like, this statement.
It's almost too defensive,
Yeah.
right? So here's my question. Do you think that he should have just never spoken out at all?
I think he should have did it in Nate Diaz fashion. He should have been like one sentence, all fucking grammar, not correct with his grammar.
Right.
I think it should have been like that. It looked like he took, like, his publicist is like, okay, you're gonna release this, but what I want you to do is fuck up all the grammar so it looks like you said it. That's what I think happened there. And I'm reading this thing and I'm like, someone else wrote this. They just fucked up the grammar and said, oh, now Nate said it.
Right. Well, here's why I ask you. Now USADA, like I said, has come out with this new thing over the course of the last year where fighters are suggested not to talk about it until USADA really knows what exactly is going on, right? I think if this is a false positive, Nate Diaz would have been better off not saying anything at all, because if the USADA comes back and says, oh, it was a false positive, we don't have to talk about it, nobody would have ever known that there was even a slight chance that Nate Diaz was on steroids. He should have just kept his mouth shut and not said anything at all.
Well, he did say in the tweet, he did say that he's not going to be one of those guys that makes excuses or lies or just ignores it. He's going to address the situation.
Right.
So he's trying to take a different route here.
Well, that's what Sean O'Malley did,
Yeah.
and look, everybody shit on Sean O'Malley when that
Listen,
happened.
steroids. Sean O'Malley should have a lawsuit against a supplement company like Yoel Romero did, and he could make a nice chunk of change.
He couldn't,
Nothing
though.
happened.
But he couldn't have a lawsuit because Yoel Romero had grounds to stand on. Sean O'Malley did not.
Exactly. So what I'm saying here is this. If Nate Diaz should have fucking did a tweet and like, get ready, the lawsuit's coming. I'm fucking suing the shit out of all these supplement companies.
But then wouldn't he have been better off if he was going to sue the supplement company to keep quiet about it and not say anything?
Well, that's why I think he's legit. He fucked up.
Yeah.
I think he fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I don't know if he did it on purpose, but maybe he took a supplement that he was unaware, or I don't know what the fuck he did. He did something here. Something happened. Something's missing from the story. I can't bury him right yet, but this is a big problem. You have a UFC card with no belts on it. The co-main event is Gastelum versus Till, which is a great fight.
Right.
But both are coming off of losses here. Okay? How are you going to be selling pay-per-views for this? Fantastic card. It is a fantastic card. But how are you going to be selling that juicy pay-per-view?
Now,
what are we going to do here? Conor McGregor is what we're going to do here.
No, not Conor. Now, I do have an argument for Gastelum, and it's funny you say this because you actually just sparked something in my head. Gastelum fought Adesanya, and even though he lost that fight, you could argue, in fact, you have argued that Gastelum looked incredible in that fight. Hold on. Native Ronin.
Espination just came out with news of Dana White saying the January fight Conor is talking about is not finalized according to Dana.
Okay, so fair. It's not finalized. There is potential for Conor to jump in on this fight and for UFC 244. I think it's too quick. I don't think Conor's going to be ready. But the original point that I was getting at is Moss, you've even argued that Kelvin Gastelum looked incredible in his fight against Ciryl Adesanya. Even though he lost the fight, he looked great. So you can't really use that loss against him. If they were going to push Gastelum up to the main event to fight Masvidal and perhaps find a new dancing partner for Darren Till, that would make sense because Gastelum didn't. There were some people who even argued Gastelum didn't lose that fight against Adesanya. You know, so it's fair. It would make sense to push Gastelum if they're that desperate for a partner for Masvidal for the BMF to push Gastelum up to the top.
No one's going to buy that pay-per-view. No one's going to give a shit.
I'm going to buy it.
No one's going to give a shit. True
I wanna
MMA
see what
fans
happens.
might be like, oh, okay, listen, that doesn't sell. That's not the BMF. That's not the whole magical thing around the BMF. What are they going to do with this belt now? What are they going to wipe their ass with this belt? This belt that they're putting together that they should have never did in the first place. And this is the problem with the UFC. I was complaining about the BMF belt and everyone's like, oh, you're just being a hater, man. It's fucking cool. It's this and that. We finally found the problem here. What happens if one of these fighters can't fight? What do? There's no backup plan here. You mean to tell me if Leon Edwards stays ready, that him versus Masvidal is going to fucking sell the pay-per-views and the tickets? There are a lot of people that bought tickets to this fight. You
actually think they're going to exchange it?
You're getting your money back. Put in for it. You can get your money back. If I'm not mistaken, with the New York State, I know in Vegas you can get your money back. But if you can do it, get your fucking money back. A lot of people are going to this thing for Nate fucking Diaz. They're not going here to see fucking Kelvin Gastelum versus Darren Till coming off of losses. No one's paying the big bucks for that shit.
Now, Clocks in the chat says it's win-win for Conor. If he loses, he gets a pass. If he wins, he's a hero. No pressure on Conor. It's a perfect scenario for him.
You know, it's a good point by Clocks there. But here's the thing. Conor's in this little... Now, if this was vintage Conor, right? If this was Conor going up, he would take any fight. He would go for this. He's like, put me in, coach. I'm ready to go.
Yes.
This is a damage control Conor right now. Now, if he goes into this situation and he does take this fight, it does look pretty good for the guy. But if he takes another L, that doesn't help the situation. It doesn't help at all.
But it doesn't put
He can make excuses. Oh, I came in on short notice and this and that. He could do that.
Exactly.
But this is not the time for excuses for Conor McGregor. This is the time for Conor to put the pieces together, to string together a couple of wins and save face. If he takes another L, that doesn't save face for him. I want Conor to step in. I want him to take that chance.
That doesn't make any sense.
Why?
You want him to step in, but you know the chances of him taking him out.
Because I'm being selfish.
But, okay, so you're
selfish.
saying as a selfish Conor fan that you want to see him fight, but as a selfish Conor fan, wouldn't you want to see him set up in a perfect situation?
No, listen, Jesse, here's what I'm trying to say here. If you're Conor, you're a businessman.
Right.
Right now, he's trying to save his image.
Okay. Yeah.
That's where he's thinking. He's traveling around Russia. He has a week to prepare for a fight against a guy in Jorge Masvidal who stays ready, and he's fighting at 170.
Right.
Okay. Conor's not ready for this fight.
Right.
It's an automatic L for Conor. It really is. He loses in every aspect. Now, as a fan, not looking at the business side of things.
As
a fan of Conor McGregor,
Conor, okay.
I say, fuck it, go for it. Guns blazing, you lose, who gives a shit? We have a million excuses. But as a business, as the McGregor machine,
right, he can't
probably
afford
not the
excuses.
smartest move for the guy.
Right.
He doesn't need the money.
Well, you also have to think that him, and I agree with you, and this is part of me agreeing with you, you have to think that after that whole spiel with the Ariel Helwani interview with Conor of his foot being a balloon, and he had this excuse and that excuse for why he didn't do this and that and take the Gaethje fight and lost the Khabib fight and everything, that it wouldn't really look good for him to have yet another excuse for why he lost the Masvidal fight, right?
Can we go back to the UFC fucking the fans over again? Can we talk about this? I mean,
Go for it.
I have been complaining about the fucking BMF belt being a complete bag of shit, selling you guys the most ridiculous main event ever. Great fight, stupid belt. Now we have one fighter ready to go in Masvidal, a bogus belt, and no opponent. This is the dumbest shit ever. Now, this could be a marketing. Now let's go into the other side of things here.
And now this is what I wanted to get at.
This could be something that the UFC is playing along with Nate, saying, hey, throw something
Not
ridiculous out
along.
there. Or Nate playing games, selling tickets.
Yep.
Yes, that could be the case. The reason why I'm not saying that is because of what Ariel said. Ariel's pretty reliable, saying this is legit, this is real. If that is the case, then you jumble that all together. Nate Diaz is indeed fighting. It's not official that he's out, if you think about it. The UFC didn't put any announcements out there, so it's not official. But all sources are saying that this is indeed the real deal. Nate Diaz is out of this fight.
Right.
I don't fucking know. All I know is this. I want Conor. I'd rather see Conor fight at this point.
Now, well, no, I disagree with that. But it is interesting to me. Now, I don't think the UFC would be playing along with something like this. I think they're so much bigger than that, and they have so much more money than that. They're not going to play that game.
Let me ask you a question, though, and hold on to that thought.
Okay.
Conor McGregor versus Masvidal.
Sure.
On a week's notice.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming in out of nowhere, blindsiding you. A ridiculous, probably press conference the week of.
No.
Open workouts.
They don't have the time or the money for that. Well, they have the money,
What are you
but they
talking
don't
about?
have
He's
the time.
got to be in New York anyway. Open
For what?
workouts. Hold on, hear me out.
All right,
Fucking A.
All right, go for it. Sorry, I apologize.
Jesus Christ. Hear me out here.
Yeah.
If somehow they convince Conor to take this fight, okay, you have the fight week, which is next week. You have the open workouts.
Right.
You have the trash talking, the last minute trash talking of McGregor and Masvidal leading up to this fight over here. Okay? Or this is all bullshit and Nate Diaz is going to fight Jorge Masvidal for the BMF belt. Who would you rather see fight for this bullshit BMF belt at this state of the game? Okay? At this stage. Masvidal versus Nate or Masvidal versus Diaz? Who would you rather see right now?
Nate and Diaz are the same thing.
I mean, I'm sorry. Masvidal versus Diaz or Masvidal versus McGregor? Excuse me. Who would you rather see?
At their current state?
Right now. I'm not talking about leading
career?
up because I was really looking forward to this fight. I'm not talking about that. Any answer's correct. Let's go.
Come on, get loud. MMA-Holes in the crowd.
Come on, get loud. MMA-Holes in the crowd.
Let's go.
Got MMA-Holes in the crowd. MMA-Holes in the crowd. MMA-Holes in the crowd.
Nick.
Fook the meth belt, my holes in the house. What up, Sean Hart? Drunk Savage, Flat, 2 Joints, an H-Bat Girl, Conor Hernandez, Chrome, Kane Otto, Boss Koga, MOS and JBH.
Woo!
Fist, clinking
right.
beer
There we
mugs.
go.
My holes in the house dislike skeleton, eggplant, in their mouth.
Fuck them.
Out.
Put the eggplant right in their mouth.
Welcome, Nick C. Welcome to the stream. It's good to see you here, my man. Now, to answer your question, in a current state of their MMA career, right?
No, I'm talking about right now. At Friday, what was it, Thursday? The day before CES, will be at CES tomorrow. Check it out. Subscribe to the channel. Next
nice little promotion.
Next
there,
Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday,
right.
There's a UFC 244 event happening, okay? At this state, where we stand.
At this stage in all of their careers.
What do you mean all of their careers?
Yes.
What the fuck does that even mean?
Well,
I'm talking about right now. I'm giving you the option. I'm putting 2 plates in front of you. Which one do you want to eat? Nate versus Masvidal or Conor versus Masvidal? Give me a fucking answer.
Nate.
Okay.
Nate.
That's #1
I
bullshit.
Want to see
You're full of
Nate.
shit.
What?
And I'll tell you
no,
why. I'll tell you why.
How are you going to tell me I'm bullshit?
Don't worry.
True grit.
They couldn't push Gastelum up to fight Masvidal. They're 2 different weight classes and Masvidal walks around at about 180.
They would
Only
make
Edwards makes sense.
Yes.
McGregor has too much going on to fight Masvidal.
Agreed. All right, we'll talk
They would
about
make
it in a minute.
Masvidal move up.
Now,
That's what they would do.
if
It
you
wouldn't
guys
be 117.
want to ploy in your opinions, there's a super chat button in your chat or a Streamlabs link down in the description. You click one of those two, and you can ploy in your opinions just like True Grit did. Now, good point, True Grit. I just feel that if there's anyone that would either like kind of make the most sense, if you're going as far as what makes sense, if Nate Diaz is not going to fight, Leon Edwards. If you're going as far as what's going to make the most money, what's going to be the most exciting, of course it's going to be Conor McGregor. But like you said, he's not going to be ready. He's more likely to take the L in this fight, and it's not going to look good for him because he's going to have to make another excuse. Oh, I wasn't ready for the fight. I came in on a week's notice, and I was on tour for my proper 12, so I wasn't training. I wasn't in a camp, blah, blah, blah. He's going to make a million excuses, so it's not going to look good for him. So what makes sense would be Leon Edwards or move Gastelum up to the main event against Masvidal and find a new dancing partner for Darren Till.
Do you want to sell pay-per-views, or do you
the
want
UFC would
to have
want to
a
sell
lame? It's a good fight, Leon versus Masvidal, but that's to the MMA fan. This whole card now. Remember, the BMF belt is for casual fans. That's the whole purpose, to get the casual views, the casual pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
They took a gamble here, didn't put any belts on this card, put a fake belt here, and now you're telling me that Masvidal versus Edwards would be a BMF fight? No one's going to pay for that.
No, but
casual's gonna buy
Masvidal
that.
versus Gastelum people would watch. I would
But
watch
then
that.
Masvidal would have to go up.
Yes.
Yes. That's stupid. It's dumb
But
because
if it's a
Gastelum's coming off a
catchweight
loss.
fight, if they make it a catchweight fight because it's such short notice, which they probably would, and find it and perhaps throw Leon Edwards at Darren Till. I feel like that would make far more sense than.
I think you're on crack. I think right now your brain is scrambled and you're not thinking correctly here. This is the BMF belt.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me this Gastelum versus Masvidal shit anyone
Right.
gives a fuck about? No one cares about that. No one cares about Masvidal versus Leon Edwards. Even though you have the 3-piece and soda you could try to put together, no one gives a shit about that. Here is the deal. What people want is Nate Diaz versus Masvidal. That's what everyone wants.
Right.
It doesn't look like we're getting that. It doesn't look like we're getting that right now. So right now, the UFC is on their knees begging Conor McGregor. They are crawling over to McGregor and like, please, whatever you can do. I know it's a week. You want to go for this. You want to be a boss. We need you to fight here. Nothing else makes sense. Honestly, I think Masvidal doesn't even fight. If Nate Diaz is not fighting, who the fuck? There's no one there.
Right.
Ask the chat. Now, you said you'd rather see Nate Diaz at this point
Then Conor.
Okay.
Right. Against Masvidal.
Leading up to this fight,
Right.
I said that BMF belt is retarded. I said that if Conor fights for the BMF belt, it is the dumbest thing in the world.
He even said he was going to take the poster off.
I would take
if
the
Conor
poster down.
fights for the BMF.
Here's the deal. If Conor saves UFC 244 to fight for this retarded BMF belt.
Saves as in wins?
No, fights.
Okay. just
Doesn't matter if
fights.
he wins or loses.
Well, I don't know if that's really
if
saving
McGregor,
it.
it doesn't save UFC 244.
No.
Who the fuck's going to fight?
Gastelum.
You are speaking like you have Down syndrome right now. You are not making any sense. I'm blaming the fucking wine. You must have retard wine right now. This is insane. I don't even know what the hell you're saying.
Yeah.
If you hate Conor, if you like Conor,
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, you are rooting for Conor to save this card because without Conor McGregor, this card is jack shit.
Right.
That's saying Nate's not fighting. If Nate is gonna fight, all right, we got a fucking good card. We have a great main event. Nate Diaz versus Masvidal, great stuff. But the only thing that can save this card to make it even better than it was before is Conor McGregor swooping in. Think of the story.
Now-
1 week's notice. Conor McGregor raping girls, punching old men, comes in, swoops in to fight for the BMF belt at Madison Square Garden. You could sell the shit out of that. You
Now-
could sell. And
all
then
right,
Nate Diaz on
all right.
steroids. Holy shit. My head's about to fucking explode.
All right. Now, Killer Clown in the chat says, not on 1 week notice. It's probably not going to happen. So all of these hopes and dreams that make your head explode, Moss, are probably going to shit all
think.
over that head.
155ers. Let's think. Cowboy?
Do you want? Let's take a look.
Cowboy Cerrone? What about him? He's a baddest motherfucker, but he's coming off of L's too. You got
take a
Tony
look.
Ferguson.
No, Cowboy Cerrone actually looks like he's about to have a fight scheduled. Because
Why not Kukui? Tony Ferguson would be fantastic. That dude's always in shape.
Let's take a look here.
Why not Tony Ferguson?
Lightweight.
That's a great fight.
All right, so we got Ferguson. No, Ferguson's going to fight Khabib in March.
It's not done.
No,
it's not set in stone.
They're shooting for February, March. So ask Tony Ferguson. Dustin Poirier, he's having hip surgery, and he's going to be recovering from his hip. He won't be back until 2020. So
Listen,
nix Dustin Poirier.
I am satisfied with Tony Ferguson. In fact, I'd rather see Tony Ferguson.
Ferguson's not going to take that fight.
Why not?
Honestly, if I had to be perfectly honest, I think Ferguson has far more respect for himself as an MMA fighter, as a true MMA fighter, to want to fight for a fucking BMF belt. No, he wants to fight Khabib for the fucking title. And I don't blame him.
Jesse, you're on crack tonight.
Absolutely
what the hell
not.
are you smoking tonight?
Man.
Tony Ferguson versus Masvidal would be perfect. Here's the deal. Ferguson already got the interim strap. In his mind, he is the champion. He wants to fight Habeeb to unify the belt, right? But realistically, he could get paid a boatload of money, fight a guy that's way worse than Habeeb and Masvidal.
What about Paul Felder?
Get the Paul Felder.
Justin
Do you want me to
Gaethje.
punch you in the face live on air?
Justin Gaethje, number 4 in the rankings.
Okay.
Justin Gaethje makes
now
sense.
Now we're talking. Gaethje is someone that we're talking. You have my interest.
Justin Gaethje doesn't have a fight set up right now. He's a hell of a fucking brawler. The guy comes in swinging for the fences.
The only reason why I'm going to say Gaethje is not ready. Gaethje already.
Yeah, what do you mean he's not ready? He was ready
on.
to fight. He's ready to fight Conor back in July.
Gaethje will not take a fight on short notice. He's not a short notice guy. He
but
even said
it. Been consistent.
I understand, but he
training.
wants full camps. Gaethje. He's trying to do this smart, and he has an opportunity to possibly fight Conor in January. So I don't think it's a smart move for. I swear, I'm on fire tonight. I am on fire. I am on point. She is completely off.
Dapper Dave.
MOS Conor can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He can fight in MSG and report to his probation officer at the same time.
So,
right? Think about that. And then the after party could be like a rape party. Like you could just punch old men and rape chicks and shit.
Stop it.
I don't know. Gaethje, no. I would like to see it. I would love to see the fight. But if I was in Gaethje's camp, I'd be like, fuck. Should we take it? Should we not take it? I don't fucking know what to do. By the way, Eddie Alvarez putting a tweet out making fun of Nate Diaz.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at this.
That was a little while ago.
I saw all the other ones. I showed everybody else the other tweets that people had made. Dylan Dennis, John Jones, Jorge Masvidal,
Super chat.
John Savage.
Okay, fine, I'll fight Masvidal.
Yes!
But
Drunk
you guys
Savage.
owe me.
Let's go. Drunk Savage is filling in. Let's do this.
All right.
I know what's going on with that chat over there. You have the refresh thing stuck on. That's why
I keep figuring out. I'm like, what is going on? I'll fix it in a minute.
All right.
So Eddie Alvarez, you said?
Yeah, it's something stupid. No, he's just everyone's on steroids bullshit. You know, he was horsing around. I thought it was pretty funny. It was right after it came out.
They're all on steroids?
Yeah.
Nah.
Fucking Eddie Alvarez. Everyone's like.
Someone else says, give it a rest, Edward.
They're loving it, though. They're loving it. As soon as Nate Diaz takes a stumble back, they all want to fucking jump on the party.
All right, tell me what's going on with this thing real quick.
You gotta go in there and you gotta see that refresh. You gotta unclick that thing.
All right, thank you. I keep trying to figure out what's going on there, and it's driving me insane.
Yeah, it's fixed now. So the chat room's on fire over here. I know Jessie has her fight briefing, and I have a million more things to say. But
I
honestly,
want to hear them.
The best scenario as a fan, whether you like Conor or hate Conor,
right?
If he fills in, if he swoops in, could you imagine fight week? Could you imagine the buzz
incredible.
For this thing?
Listen,
it would amplify this whole event, which has no other title fights on it. It would be the fight. El Kukui, I'm equally as down. I love Tony Ferguson in this fight.
Right.
Love that. He is always ready. He's always in shape.
Forget Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson's fighting Khabib next. We all know Tony Ferguson's going to fight Khabib next.
I would sacrifice that fight for this.
But I'm not shitting on your idea. Shit.
Actually, you're not even sacrificing
Supra insane.
What the heck happened?
All right, let me just give you a brief rundown real quick. Nate Diaz says on his social media that he tested positive for an enhanced level of some. Let me just read it for you so that I don't misread what was going on. He revealed on social media that he tested positive for elevated levels of a banned substance and will not make the trip to New York's Madison Square Garden for a much-anticipated main event against Jorge Masvidal for the UFC's BMF title. So we are here talking about it. Fight briefing will happen later on, but this is far more important, and I love Moss's opinion here. But Moss, I want you to read the chat and tell him. And first, before you do that, I want to know. No, I don't want to know. I'm going to tell you. I'm not shitting on the idea that Conor McGregor would not be an excellent fucking ploy for this entire thing. Conor McGregor brings the money. He brings the views, right? Super insane. Oh, Tim
Let
Price.
Askren Remac. More exciting than Demian Maya.
You know what?
Let Askren
I'm not opposed to that.
But then what
He
are they
doesn't
going to do
deserve it,
about
though.
the fights this weekend?
And the BMF and all that shit.
Yeah, Askren's already prepared for a fight this weekend. He's not going to fight Masvidal next week. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, no.
But I'm not shitting on your idea that Conor McGregor is a good idea.
It's the best idea.
But he's not ready.
No, well, here's the thing.
That's what bothers me is that you're so hyped up on this whole Conor McGregor thing. And it's like, don't you want, like the guy that you are a big fan of, you would want him to put himself in a good position.
I don't care.
He's setting himself up for failure by doing
exactly. If that's exactly what I said before. If you are in Conor McGregor's camp, you tell him do not take this fight. It doesn't make sense. You're trying to rebrand yourself. The resurrection of Conor McGregor, this whole season bullshit that he's talking about next year. He's trying to see these things again. If he takes this fight, it's a reckless move by Conor. So I could understand why his corner would kind of back off from something like this. But as a fan, win or lose, I don't give a fuck. This fight week would be fiery.
Like, that's what doesn't make sense to me. You're such a fan. Why don't you want him to set himself up in such
I want to see a badass fight
position?
This is the baddest motherfucker belt. If a guy comes in on a week's notice to take this fight at 170,
it's so funny you're saying
that's
this.
the baddest motherfucker. That's what makes sense. Jesus Christ.
True Grit.
What I meant was that Masvidal walks around at around 180. He doesn't cut much weight to make 170.
Yeah.
So Gastelum at 185 and Masvidal at 180 wouldn't be allowed.
Unless it's catch weight.
Also, for one guy to cut weight and the other guy not to do so would be an issue if he could.
So it would be allowed, theoretically, if they did like a catch weight bout, they could do it. If both of them agreed to some percentage of the purse. He said what I meant was Masvidal walks around at 180. He doesn't cut much weight to make 170. So Gastelum at 180 and Masvidal at 185 wouldn't make sense. And you're right.
No one wants, guys.
But I
really
still think that would be the one of the best solutions. If they can't get Conor McGregor, which they probably won't, the best solution would be move Gastelum up and find a new dancing partner for Darren Till, or just put a new co-main event altogether.
Here's the deal, guys. It's super simple. You have two options here. You have Conor McGregor, if that's a no, which is it's very possible that's a no. You have Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson is always ready, and this is at 170. If Tony Ferguson, listen to me right now. If Tony Ferguson loses this fight at 170, the baddest motherfucker fight, and loses this fight on 1 week's notice, he still is earned the 155 title fight against Habeeb. The fight is not gone. It's not gone anymore. He still has that. Fuck.
Conor Hernandez.
Have triple cunt fight Masvidal.
A triple cunt fight Masvidal.
Maybe.
Says Conor.
Maybe Triple C will step in. Think about it. It makes total sense.
I think Moss has lost his shit.
Makes total sense. What is going on here? Tony Ferguson versus Masvidal for the baddest motherfucker belt would be fucking insane. It makes me interested now. Nate Diaz versus Masvidal is a great fight. It was something I was really looking forward to. I didn't give a fuck about the baddest motherfucker belt.
Right.
Now, Nate Diaz, the whole drama with the steroids, and you have someone swoop it. I love it.
Super insane.
Fergo is champ shiz only Khabib only.
There you go.
Thank you. That's what I was just going to say.
You can still fight Habeeb. What is going on?
No,
if Tony Ferguson loses at 170, he could still fight Habeeb at 155 for the belt.
Moss, if they put him on a medical suspension or if something happens to him in this fight, he's not fighting Khabib in February or March. It's not going to happen.
What are you talking
This is where the
about?
logic has to come in. I get what you're saying. Oh, he can fight.
He's going to be out for a year?
And then no. Moss,
what kind of medical suspension are you talking about?
December, January, February. 3 months. 3 months at least he has to be put out.
Khabib wants to fight in March.
1 Red Bulls.
Conor has new October sexual assault charges.
Yes,
out.
and that's something that I brought up earlier on. Thank you, Red Balls. I brought that earlier on. He has 2 sexual assault cases. One of them is just recent that just came out of the woodwork, and he's working on legal obligations right now. On top of that, he's trying to promote his business. He's on a 1-week notice. The guy hasn't been training as much as he should be. The guy is not ready. It doesn't make any sense to put him in the fight.
So let's talk about Tony Ferguson. Okay, listen, Conor McGregor, they could still make this fight. It's up to Conor McGregor if he wants this fight to happen. It's not. It can happen. It's a week away, for God's sakes. That could happen. But
Conor Hernandez.
Conor fought lose then beat Nate at 170 and still fought for the 155 belt.
Conor fought lost then beat Nate at 170 and still fought for the
Thank you,
155
Conor
belt.
Hernandez. Listen,
Conor.
Jesse, here's the deal. You gotta hear me out. If Tony Ferguson fills in for the baddest motherfucker on a week's notice,
Right.
that makes a baddest motherfucker fight. That makes sense. If he loses the fight, it means nothing. It's a fantasy belt. It means jack shit. He came in on a week's notice. He can still fight Habeeb.
Super insane.
You're tripping, dude. Tony Khabib biggest fight.
Thank you.
Oh my, are you guys fucking retarded?
You're
Thank you for the
missing
donation.
what they're saying.
You
though.
can still
You're only thinking about what you're
can
saying.
still fight
You're not
Khabib!
thinking about what they're
Are
saying.
you
He
retarded?
can't still fight Khabib
Yes!
if it's a February-March fight. If it's coming up in 3 to 4 months
my God.
and something happens to him in this fight and he gets injured, he can't fight Khabib for that
Guys,
title in February or March.
what
this
are
is
you
what you're
talking
missing.
about?
You're so stuck up on this idea that he could fight now and fight 3
Hold on
months
a
from
second.
now. But God forbid something fucking happens to him in this fight. This is why he's not going to take up the
Jesse?
fight. He's not going to risk
Jesse?
it.
Jesse,
Moss,
look at me for a second.
Moss,
Look at me.
he's not.
Look at me for a second.
He's not going to risk it, Moss.
Look at me. Is the Habeeb Ferguson is the Habeeb Ferguson fight set in stone yet? Is it official?
No,
Okay.
Chris.
It is
no.
not official.
But
So,
Ferguson,
baby girl,
Masvidal is not set in stone either.
It
We're going to use
doesn't
this argument.
fucking matter.
It does
doesn't
matter.
Jesse, the fight is not official. Ferguson is not even guaranteed the Habeeb fight. Something could happen where Habeeb could not make weight. Tony Ferguson should take
can't.
this fight. You guys are nuts.
Poirier will step in.
Poirier can't step in. Super insane. So that's a good suggestion. So Poirier is actually on a longer leave now because he's been going through hip surgery and he has a longer recovery than he expected. So Poirier can't step in. Medically, he can't. He's fucked up right now. He has no ability to step in at this point. But that does not nix the idea of Justin Gaethje. Now, Moss said Justin Gaethje wouldn't come in on short notice.
No.
But
I don't see that.
desperation does wonderful things. Or I would even say Cowboy. Cowboy would probably jump in.
Cowboy would be a good solution too.
Tim Price.
Grab Askren is this week. I'm down for a Conor loss.
Yes, Maia versus Askren is this weekend, which we will be doing a fight briefing on. But Moss, I want you to go through the chat and answer their questions real quick because I got to pee real quick. I got to be quite honest with you. So if you could just go through the chat and get their opinions on this because they deserve to have their ideas,
All right, I'm going to talk to you, chat room.
just as much.
And then we'll get into the fight briefing as well. The chat's on fire. Thank you for joining us. As if you're just jumping in, that is correct. JBH was not lying. This is out. Nate Diaz is out.
Super chat.
We got Tim Price coming in.
Let Holloway try. I could watch him fight anyone.
Holloway wouldn't be a bad one, right? Holloway coming in there and fighting at 170. Sure. Here's the deal, and I think this is what Jesse's missing out on. I'll get into the chat in a second. Here's the problem. If you take this fight on short notice, it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt you in any way. You fight. If you take an L, it doesn't really matter. Now, the only one it would matter to is Conor because Conor's trying to rebrand his whole fucking thing. Here, I'm in the wrong. Look, I'm in two. Oh, he's trying to rebrand himself here. So I could see the excuses by Conor. This is interesting. I looked over at Cowboy Cerrone's Twitter. There is not a peep. Not a peep. Let me look over at Ariel Helwani and see if anything got updated over here.
You can't stop the Siberian Express. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
I don't like sitting on the side. This is like...
Regardless of what happens in the main event for UFC 244, don't let this distract you from the fact that with the correct picks at Pulse Reloaded gets an MMA-Holes segment. Or maybe gets to provide intro dialogue to this fight briefing program.
All right, so there you go. Garbage Truck Juice. Thank you for the donation. That was very kind of you. And subscribe to Pulse Reloaded, Resurrected, whatever his channel is. So yeah, Ariel Helwani didn't update with anything. This is really a bizarre story. If you're jumping in now, Nate Diaz is supposedly out of UFC 244 because of steroids. USADA. They got him. And now there is not a peep from the UFC. We don't know what's going on. We're in limbo. But according to Ariel, this is a real deal. This is the truth. All right, let's get into the chat. I know we've been fucking going back and forth here, chat room. Let's see what the chat has to say as they are completely on fire.
So Richie says, shit, they can fight in my mom's backyard in Stockton. Josh Lewis says, if Ferguson lost, then it ruins the hype for the Khabib and Ferguson. If Ferguson loses, it's still an end to his win streak. Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Like, it would be the worst idea possible, aside medically.
His win streak? He comes in on a week notice. He fights at 170.
He's saying if he loses
for a fake belt, it's not even like a real
but
thing.
he still fought.
Yeah.
He still fought against someone who has
means nothing.
a pretty decent record as of late.
Means nothing. Conor McGregor did it. He went up 2 weight classes after, the whole 145 thing. I mean, it means jack shit. It means, guys, remember, this is a fairy tale fight. This is not the traditional UFC fight here. Okay?
Right.
This is every other, if this was a title fight, if this was anything, yes, it goes against his record, of course, but this is not the same thing. This is the BMF. The Rock is strapping this around the waist. People will forget. If you step in, you're a hero. Win or lose, you're a fucking hero. Cowboy Cerrone, who's been notorious for doing something like this, would be a perfect fit. Tony Ferguson,
yes,
he is creeping up for me. I would love to, listen, Conor's my number one. I would love to see Conor swoop in. It would be a fucking circus. But Tony Ferguson is definitely my number 2. If he loses this fight, you're still fighting Habeeb at 155.
Ridiculous.
I'm telling you, why would they not make that fight?
That's ridiculous.
He's still the best 155er out there.
Ferguson is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Okay, Jesse, at 170, he takes a loss.
Yeah.
He's fighting for Habeeb at 155. Where does this tie together, Jesse? Please explain this.
I told you before, and I will tell you again. If something happens to Ferguson in this fight, that fight with Khabib in the spring is off.
Okay, let me make this clear. Oh, donation.
You can't stop the Siberian Express. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
Garbage truck juice.
Regardless of what happens in the main event for UFC 244, don't let this distract you from the fact that with the correct picks at Pulse, Reloaded gets an MMA-Holes segment. Or maybe gets to provide intro dialogue to this fight briefing program.
Is that the same donation? I think it's the same one that came in. Yeah, it came in before.
We'll discuss it. We'll discuss it, Pulse.
Thank you, Pulse. So here's the deal. Max Holloway. What did he do? No. Listen to me. What did he do? Max Holloway went up to 155, lost to Dustin Poirier, went back down to 145, and is defending his belt. Right? Like nothing happened.
You say Conor shouldn't fight, but Tony should limau.
Because Tony Ferguson is not rebranding himself. Are you fucking retarded?
What do you mean rebranding? Explain.
Conor McGregor is in deep shit. With the law, with his career, everything's all over the place. The guy is completely rebranding his image. Tony Ferguson is a badass right now.
What
it
do
is
you
a
think
win-win situation for Ferguson.
Wait a minute. So Tony Ferguson had all of that mental illness shit go on with him and his wife. His wife had a restraining order against him. He had to go get medically treated. His image was completely tainted.
Then came back and won.
His image, and he won by what? A stoppage, a doctor stoppage.
That's pretty
Ahmed
good.
Fatil.
MLS if Masvidal Ferguson, he will be out for a long time. Don't want to jeopardize the Khabib versus Ferguson.
Exactly.
It would be badass if Conor stepped in.
Guys.
Okay.
He's talking to me.
Let me finish.
He's talking to me.
Let me finish my.
Khabib, he's talking to me. He spent money. He's talking to me. Khabib Nurmagomedov made $6.5 million. What makes you think he's in a rush to get back in there anytime soon?
Who?
Guys, Habeeb. What makes you think he's getting in there anytime? He's fucking kicking his legs up in the air, not giving a fuck.
Khabib has been calling for the fight with Ferguson in spring. In fact, Khabib's
father.
No, you're delusional, Moss. Khabib's father is the one who said that he'd be willing to set up a fight with Ferguson in the spring, and this is what you're missing. This is what you're missing.
Is Khabib's father fighting?
And how is Ferguson not rebranding his image himself? The guy's image was completely tainted after what happened.
You guys gotta fucking
for
clear
you
your
to
heads.
say that he came back on a win is atrocious because it was a doctor stoppage.
I think Moss
my
makes
God.
sense with Tony Ferguson. Ferguson gets a huge paycheck, and even if he loses against Masvidal, which he wouldn't, it doesn't affect his ranking at lightweight.
It doesn't.
It would look very badass for Ferguson to come in. His value goes up.
It does. It goes up either way. You guys are retarded.
I disagree.
True Grit finally
Don't
preaching
call
some
them retarded
truth.
because they have a different opinion. You
Listen,
can't say that.
it's only about this opinion.
No,
Ferguson
Moss, just
versus...
because not everybody agrees with you doesn't mean you can call them retarded. Here's the thing. Now, I get it. I get why you're upset because people aren't agreeing with you, but I completely disagree with you. I think that is the worst move that Ferguson could ever make. He needs to wait until the spring. He needs to fight for the actual title against Khabib.
He doesn't even know if the spring is a definite done deal.
But what? So what? He's going to
Wait
jeopardize that by fighting now and getting injured?
Tony
Why
Ferguson,
would he do that?
How many times were they supposed to schedule Ferguson versus Habeeb?
4 times.
Okay.
This will be the 5th time.
This will be the 5th time.
Yes.
And what makes Tony Ferguson believe that this fight's actually going to happen?
It's the 5th time. It's got to happen.
You guys are nuts.
Tony is fighting for the real belt, not fake one.
Yeah?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Show
Fight
me
for
where.
the real belt against Habeeb Nurmagomedov in the spring.
Let's see the
Even
facts.
Dana White said that
See? She's choking on false.
You're getting
false
me all
thoughts.
hyped up. Even Dana White said that he had his sights set on the spring for Khabib and Ferguson.
Dana White said he'll make the fight. Yeah, clear your throat. Drink some wine. Dana White said that if Ferguson wanted it, then he would do it.
Tim Price.
100% down for Tony. If he's injured, we can wait.
But
That's
wait
the
for
thing.
what? How long are you going to wait for you to finally see Khabib versus Ferguson, right?
Jesse.
Khabib versus Ferguson has been set up 4 different times. If this does happen in the springtime, it will be the 5th time. How long are you going to wait to see the 5th setup for Khabib versus Ferguson? You might as well do it while he's healthy now, while he's in the right mindset, and while he's good. He beat the fuck out of Cowboy. I'll give you that. He beat the fuck out of Cowboy. He pieced up his face, but that was a doctor stoppage win. Give him a chance to get the fucking title. Why jeopardize it now?
It's happening, brew, next year.
Next year.
Yeah,
That's what we're saying. Spring
who said
2020.
it? Guys, there is nothing set in stone. Dana White said that if Tony Ferguson wants to fight, he's going to give him the fight. He never even said Tony Ferguson is the guy. If he
Tony
wants to fight,
Ferguson
he's going
said
to
he
give it to him.
wanted the fight.
Okay, Jesse, I hate to break it to you, but you're living in a fantasy world. Khabib versus Ferguson hasn't
Moss.
happened in 4 times. Okay, Tony
It's the 5th
Ferguson.
time. It's gotta happen. There's no fucking
It
excuse.
can still happen. That's the
It will
problem.
happen.
He could fight the BMF and fight next year
And if
versus
he-
Khabib.
Now let me ask you.
What
if,
the fuck?
If he gets injured in the BMF,
Holy
he
shit!
gets injured,
if he
then
gets
what?
injured, he could still fight in 6 months.
then we have to wait.
You're still waiting about 6
They
months.
want it to happen in the spring. You can't wait. If you can't wait, if you have to wait for 6 months, you can't have
Lucky
it happen in
number
the spring.
7 will be the one.
All right, guys.
Lucky number 7 will be the one.
Yeah, number 7. Here's the deal, guys. I mean, listen. We can argue something that is not even happening. This is how stupid this argument is. Think about this. We want Habeeb versus Ferguson. Everyone wants this fight. Who doesn't want this fight? But it's not set in stone. If you're Tony Ferguson, you could swoop in and still have a chance to fight Habeeb next year. It just makes total sense. If he doesn't want to fight because of the short notice, I understand. It's a risk. It's a risk. You could lose. But do it for me, for God's sake.
True grit.
Masvidal should fight U.S. immigration.
Yeah, now I like that.
100% likely he loses.
All right. Well, this is sad news, and I'm going to get out of here now. And we have so many
Oh, you
people
getting
watching.
out of here?
Well, I'll stay all fucking
Listen,
night.
I don't mind continuing talking about
You want
this.
to get rid of the fight briefing? You want to fucking axe it?
No, I got to fight brief. I
All
have
right.
to. I owe it to them because I've already spent an hour of my time, an hour and 6 minutes of my time with the Nate thing. But it's just so important to talk about because it's Nate Diaz, for God's sake. Like, no one expects Nate Diaz to pop maybe marijuana metabolites, but not steroids. Pulse Reloaded.
Chris hypotheticals if Kukui fought Masvidal and the fight ended up like Lawler versus Rory Part 2. How would Ferguson pass a medical suspension for a potential title fight months later? Also, Dana would have to pay him $500,000. Dana's a cheapskate.
Good point.
Okay.
Fair
Thank
point.
you for the
No,
donation.
that's a fair point.
So here's the deal. Guys, you are saying how is he going to fight in a couple of months to fight Habeeb? Habeeb is not fighting in a couple of months. That's not happening. You know that, right? Habeeb is probably going to fight the middle of next year. Maybe the end of next
They
year.
keep interrupting you, Moss. They don't want.
It's crazy.
They don't want you to speak. Dapper Dave.
Help me get out a hashtag I have been trying to get out there. Khabib versus Ferguson. Baba Yaga versus El Kukui. Boogeyman versus Boogeyman. It a great title for that fight.
So Khabib versus Ferguson is the hashtag you're trying to get out there. Maybe we'll tweet something Khabib versus Ferguson.
What?
But go ahead, Moss.
All right. So here's the deal. We all want that. We all want that fight, Habeeb versus Ferguson. But let's be realistic. Habeeb, he made $6.5 million. He is in no rush to get back in there. He says he probably has about 1 or 2 more fights left in his...
He's in a rush.
Habeeb's in a rush?
Yes, his father said that if he makes 30 fights, he retires, and Khabib is just looking to finish that 30.
Exactly. He's not in a rush.
But
he just wants to finish up the 30 fights.
But he
That's
likes to fight. He likes to stay active, is what they were saying. So like they don't like to take those long layoffs like Conor did or anybody
Hold on a
else.
second. Habeeb is the least active fighter on the UFC roster.
But he likes to stay active in his training and stuff. So if a fight comes up, then he can just take it.
This is what I'm saying here, guys. Okay, and we're gonna end this. I can't talk about this over and over again. I mean, it's just my mind is I feel like my brain cells are dying right now. The Habeeb thing, to even throw in the Habeeb as Tony Ferguson shouldn't take it. It doesn't make any sense because Habeeb, we don't even know when he's coming back. Okay,
Yeah.
the guy made a lot of money in his last fight. He's looking to solidify his legacy with Ferguson and perhaps GSP. I don't even know what the fuck the GSP thing is. 2 hypothetical fights that probably won't even happen. If it didn't happen 4 times, why do we think it's going to happen a 5th? Okay,
Yeah.
It's about next Saturday. It's about figuring out what is going to save UFC 244. If
Exactly.
Nate Diaz is out,
Yeah.
we have to figure out what is going to save that pay-per-view.
Right.
They might scrap the fucking pay-per-view.
I don't think so.
It's happened.
I don't
It's
think
happened.
No, because this is a made-up belt, and they've already spent too much money trademarking the BMF to really scrap it. So they're going to
So
find
what's your
something.
answer?
I think they're going to find something. I think that if they're that desperate, if they're not going to find anyone to take the place, if Nate Diaz, if it's not a false positive, I really think they're going to move Gastelum up. I think that's going to happen.
Jesse, I love you to death.
No, I'm just telling you
But if
what
they
I think
move
logically
Gastelum
and what move they're going to
Up
make.
to the main event.
They've already spent too much money branding the BMF, right?
So you're going to hold on a second. So you're going to take out a very good fight in Till versus Gastelum. You're going to dismantle that fight and then make a shitty main event.
I love Gastelum versus Till. I love the fact that Till's moving up. I love everything about this fight. But my concern is if they're desperate enough to find a dancing partner for Masvidal, which they have to be because this is for the BMF title, that they're going to move someone from the co-main event up and then find a dancing partner for the co-main, or perhaps scratch the co-main altogether. That would be their smartest move.
That would be the dumbest move.
No,
Jesse.
that would be their smartest move as far as getting a fight set up, because they're not going to scratch the BMF. Like I said, they already spent too much time and money on it. They trademarked it, for God's sake. Conor McGregor designed it. Like, there's no way they're scratching the BMF. So now it's
If they
who's the
move
dancing
Gastelum
partner?
up, if they dismantle the Till Gastelum fight, which is a fun fight, if they get rid of that and put Gastelum up, it makes no fucking sense at all. At all. It makes 0 sense. You need to bring a guy off the bench to come in. You need to bring in a badass off the bench to come in. That's the only solution. If not, you get rid of the main event. You might have to scrap the card. Mm-hmm. That's how I'm gonna leave it with that.
I don't think it's going to be scrapped.
All right, I'm out of here. I'm going to watch the rest of the Ranger game. Thank you for letting me
Thank
on
you,
your
Moss,
show,
for
Jesse.
joining
It was a
us.
complete pleasure. I have a headache now.
Yeah.
Maybe The Rock could fill in. Maybe The Rock versus, I don't know, John Cena or some shit could
Yeah.
fill in because it's a stupid fight anyway. Thank you. All right, thank you for the donations. Bye.
Nice exit, Moss. Thank you.
Thanks for all the cheese.
Thanks for joining us. All right, guys. Now we're going to head right into the fight briefing for this weekend. UFC Fight Night 162, or UFC Singapore. Demian Maia versus Ben Askren. I know it's not as exciting as Nate Diaz, but it's still something that we need to talk about. The UFC does return to Singapore this weekend for the first time since June of 2018, and like that show, which was the main event, or main evented by the fight between Leon Edwards, who we were just talking about, and Donald Cerrone, this one isn't the strongest card overall. So it is something to be a little bit concerned about, because I gotta say, even Mystic Moss wasn't that hyped about this fight. So why don't we go through who is on the card, the main card for this weekend, and we'll start going down. Here we have Muslim Salikhov versus Laureano Staropoli, and then we have Ciryl Gane versus Don'Tale Mayes, Frank Camacho versus Beneil Dariush, our co-main event Michael Johnson versus Stevie Ray, and Demian Maia versus Ben Askren. Oh no!
Robert 12.
There it is. Yes!
Robert Irish whiskey. Robert 12.
Proper 12! Roberto.
Hopefully Nate still fights. If not, McGregor or Tony can have a major impact. It is the Garden. I
Yeah.
like the Kelvin idea, but he's too big, ain't he?
Listen, I said it would make sense if Conor McGregor took the place of Nate, but I don't have high hopes on that whole situation. I think it's a little ridiculous that to even think that Conor McGregor could take the spot there, but you know, it is what it is. Yeah, eggplant to you, Chevy. Eggplant to you. All right, guys, let's take a look at the chat real quick. I'm going to say hi to you guys in the chat. I know that we spent a lot of time talking about Nate Diaz, and even though this is a fight briefing, I thought it was really important for us to talk about Nate Diaz. Oh, I'll get this mic out of the way for you guys. There we go. Kamak Hamstar says, love you, SOS, Son ED. Oh, yeah. Daniel Miranda, shut up. You don't like the idea of Conor McGregor stepping in? Jonathan Wilberding says Conor McGregor didn't design that. He's a fucking liar. XX Reaper says Johnson versus Ray should be a good fight. Flat Earth Deacon, Roberto Hernandez with a fist pump. Jesse, are you a C cup? No. Taylor Haley, I am a B cup. I have small titties. Jeremiah says, what did he pop for? So they're saying that, Jeremiah, they're saying that he had an enhanced level of steroids in his system, but they didn't really say what. They didn't say if it was a false positive. So we're going based off the fact that he just came out and said this. For all we know, it's a false positive, and everything's fine, and Diaz versus Masvidal is still a go. But it is a little concerning. Be at Moses, Jeremiah, you got it. Jeremiah, during Sabotage, JBH, how's the Halloween Town looking? It's looking fantastic. In fact, I have a picture I will post to you guys later. If you want to help out the Halloween Town, there's a link in the description. By the way, this is the last day that I will be having the link in the description for the Halloween Town, guys. We are running out of space on our mantle, so I unfortunately will be having to nix that link. So if you would like to help out the village, there's a link in the description, but this is the last day. I can't provide the link anymore after this. Jeremiah, let's see. Daniel Hampleton says, hey, Jess. Hey, Danielle. How you doing? All right, guys. We're going to talk about UFC Fight Night 162 UFC Singapore. The first fight of the main card is Muslim Salikhov versus Staropoli. Let me scroll down here so you guys can see our fighters here. So let's start. Salikhov, right? And Salikhov, I keep calling him Salikhov. It's Salikhov. Salikhov is currently on a 2-fight winning streak. His pro MMA record is 15-2-0. His last fight was in September against Nordine Taleb, and he won by an overhand right in the first round. So let's start with the fact that Salikhov is coming off of a pair of knockouts. That last fight was not his only knockout, and I think I just broke the legs there. That last fight is not his only pair of knockouts. So he is coming off a pair of knockouts in brutal fashion. And prior to his UFC career, he did take out his opponents with spinning kicks and hook kicks, all low percentage kicks, but still kicks. I think it's safe to argue here that he has an incredible timing in everything that he throws. And while his UFC career hasn't been perfect, I think he's clearly a very dangerous fighter, and his opponents should always be concerned about him. Now, Salikhov has a couple of submissions on his record, so we know that he's a very well-rounded fighter. He's good on the feet, he's good on the ground, and he appears to have a decent grappling game. So that's something also that Staropoli is going to have to pay attention to.
Super chat.
Donation. Who is it? Let's see.
Super chat.
Supra Insane. Oh, it's not going to read it. It says it right here. It says, you're hot. See ya, Supra. Actually, Supra, don't go. Stick around. We're talking about fight briefing right now. All right, so like I said, he does have a couple of submissions on his record, so he's a very well-rounded fighter. But then he also looked vulnerable on the mat in his UFC loss to Alex Garcia. So he does have some weaknesses on the ground, even though he shows some strengths. So that's good for Staropoli. So let's talk about Staropoli, right? Staropoli is on a 7-fight winning streak. His pro MMA record is 9-1-0. His last fight was in May against Thiago Alves, where he did win, but it was by unanimous decision, so there weren't any finishes there. Now, Staropoli is a huge question mark on the ground, so I worry about where he's going to stand against Salikhov, because Salikhov, as we know, like I just said, is a very well-rounded fighter. He's strong on the ground. So this should be a hugely entertaining fight, and I like that they put this as the first fight of the main card. I think it's going to be a good way to kind of shoot us in, because not very many people are excited about this weekend's fights, and this is a good way to get them excited. This is a good launch into the main card. I like it a lot. So Staropoli showed a wild striking game back in May, like I mentioned, his last fight, with his victory over Thiago Alves, and it honestly reminded me in a lot of ways of a larger Yair Rodriguez. Now, throwing wild combinations at Alves, but he's always pretty solid when it came to that. And I think that he had solid fundamentals and some impressive defensive skills. So that really showed a lot of strengths for Staropoli in that fight. Now, Staropoli is 2 inches taller than Salikhov and will have a reach advantage in this fight. We've never really seen Salikhov have that reach disadvantage, But, we'll see. I believe that this was something that was a great effect against Alvarez, and he can use it as a great effect against Salikhov, as he was able to keep him at the end of his strikes, and he was able to kind of avoid the shots and everything. But bottom line for this fight, this one is a super hard fight to pick, and we just don't know enough about the strengths and weaknesses of either man in this fight against higher level oppositions to really have that sort of clear-cut favorite, right? So I'm thinking about favoring Staropoli slightly, purely because he seems to be a better finisher, and he does appear to have more power in his strikes. So I'm going to go with Staropoli by decision. Let me know who you guys have in this chat for the fights tonight. Flat Earth with the fist pump, Sean Hart with the Dragons. Wait, I got you, Sean Hart.
Dragons.
All right, Triple C says, John Adams, CC Ryder says, chat is acting up. Flat Earth Deacon says, 50 likes times 2. That's right. So, guys, guess what? We have...
I've got 50 likes.
You've got
50 likes.
We've got 50 likes.
MMA-Holes 50 likes. I've got 50 likes. You've got 50 likes. We've got 50 likes.
We have it twice. I've got 50 likes. You've got 50 likes. We've got 50 likes.
MMA-Holes 50 likes. I've got 50 likes. You've got 50 likes. We've got 50 likes. MMA-Holes 50 likes. I've got 50 likes. You've got 50 likes. We've got 50 likes. MMA-Holes 50 likes. The dislikes can choke on a dick.
All right. Now, that's not the only thing we have going on here, guys. It's not just 50 likes. Before I get into our next fight, thank you for letting me know who you guys have. We have Gane versus Maze coming up next. But before we get into our next fight, I have an announcement to make.
Subscriber goals. Subscriber goals. MMA-Holes. 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 Subscriber goals. The greatest channel on YouTube.
Subscribe for more dragons! That is right, guys. We just made it to 29,000. Oh, shut up, 50 likes. We just made it to 29,400 subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for joining the channel. We are here for Fight Briefing. UFC Singapore is coming up this weekend. We just got done talking about Nate Diaz, who tested positive by USADA, and we will talk about that more tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow we have CES. I can't say that. We're going to talk about that more tomorrow. But, guys, if you want to hear more, subscribe to our second channel. We're always live on there whenever you guys are not expecting it, and we talk about a lot of UFC over there as well. Second channel, link in the description below. But now, let's move on to the second fight of the main card. Ciryl Gane, however you pronounce his name, versus Dante Mays. Now, Gane is on a 4-fight winning streak at the moment. His current MMA record is 4-0-0, so this is an undefeated fighter. And his last fight was on August 10th against Rafael Pessoa, and he did win by arm triangle choke in the first round. Now, Gane did make his UFC debut back in August, and being a native of France as well, and a huge athletic specimen. He's 6'5", he's at 265 pounds. He immediately drew comparisons to Francis Ngannou. I myself, when I first started seeing him, thought that he looked a lot, or seemed a lot, like Francis Ngannou. So, Gane showed himself to be more than a simple power puncher when he submitted Rafael Pessoa with a first-round arm triangle choke, as I had just previously mentioned. Now, the fact that Gane was able to surprise everyone by submitting Pessoa tells us a lot about him as a fighter. He's clearly not a total novice on the ground, so the idea that Mays may have had a simply out wrestling him should have been kind of out the window, have had that opportunity, right? So Mays, his opponent, is also on a 4-fight winning streak, but his MMA record is 7-2-0. His last fight was July 16th in Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series against Ricardo Prizel, and he won by a left cross to ground and pound in the first round. And this was a pretty impressive fight to watch. We actually got to watch this fight in a fight reaction. So Mays is another huge guy, just like his opponent. So, listen, he's 6'6", he's 262 pounds, and judging from his footage that I've seen, it's clear that he hits extremely hard. Now, he was KO'd by Alan Crowder when he appeared in Dana White's Contender Series back in 2017, and he's been in the Contender Series 3 different times, so that was the first time. 2018, he came back, he took a win against Mitchell Sipe, or Sipe, or whatever you want to call him, by ground and pound, and then he came back again. He left, and then he came back again in 2019 with his most recent win against Ricardo Prizel. So Mays does have a pair of decision wins on his record, meaning he's definitely got the experience edge here, but I don't know if that's going to serve him well. Bottom line for this fight, guys, throw in the fact that Mays was beaten down by Alan Crowder, who is a tough opponent and appears to be a slower heavyweight in comparison to Gane. I think Gane, on the other hand, seems to be much faster with a sort of explosive athleticism, and that's really going to advantage him in this fight. Now, I do feel that Gaines has got to be careful in this fight with Mays, as anyone, because Mays' power can knock out an opponent in one shot, one lucky shot, and he knocks out an opponent. But I still think that Gaines comes out on top and it gets over with the crowd in this one. So my pick for this fight is going to be Gaines by KO. TKO, let me know who you guys have in the chat. Gaines or Mays? Crumpty Dumb says Kimbo didn't die him, and Data 5000 are still laying on each other. Sean Hart with the fist bumps. Jerkoff says Max is too small for 170. You fuck nuts. Shady Shadow says this will be a good fight. Guys, JBH always does fight briefing on Thursday. Stop being jerk says T Bird. Is someone being a jerk in the chat? Bingo Lombardi says fuck that. Nate out. CC Ryder Data was Motorider. Bingo Lombardi says fuck that, Nate. Out. Sun ED Thursday for JHB. Drunk Savage going Gaines. Mac B. BMF title is for those who don't give up and are willing to die in the octagon. Conor cowers and gives up in his fight. That's why Diaz versus Masvidal was so marketable. Good point. Luis Serrano says hanging with the boys.
Hanging with the boys.
That's right. Luis Serrano in the chat. Shady Shadows says appreciate your research skills. JBH, thank you, Shady Shadows. All right, next fight on the card: Frank Camacho versus Beneil Dariush. Now, Moss, I don't know if Moss is a fan of Dariush here, but he does always have something to say about Dariush, which I find extremely funny. He's an interesting character, Dariush. But we're going to get into Camacho first. Camacho's on a one-fight winning streak. His pro MMA record is 22-7-0, and his last fight was in June of this year against Nick Hine, and he did win by punches in the second round. Now, let's start with stating that although Camacho is coming off of a win, it's extremely important to remember that he has lost more UFC fights than he's won. And that's something that you guys have to keep in mind, because if you don't, it's gonna turn you for the upset here. Now, while Camacho is exciting to watch, I really don't feel that he's anything to suggest that he'll ever really become more than a fun brawler inside the cage. And I think that disappoints a lot of people. Camacho is a tough brawler. The guy comes in swinging for the fences, but he's not the kind of explosive striker or explosive athlete like that Barbosa was. And I'd actually suggest that he's really no quicker than Dariush, which could be a problem for him. Now, in favor of Camacho, if we're talking about his strengths, Dariush's chin has been cracked before, which gives Camacho a puncher's chance here. But on that same note, guys, the fact that he struggled in certain grappling points of his own fight with Dober should mean that Dariush will kind of have a few problems with him on the mat. Now let's talk about Dariush for a minute. Dariush is on a 2-fight winning streak. His pro MMA record is 16-4-1. His last fight was in March of this year against Drew Dober, like I had just mentioned, and he did win by armbar in the second round. Now, let me just start by suggesting that Dariush is probably one of the strongest grapplers in the lightweight division. There's no question about it. He's a BJJ black belt. He's been able to submit fighters like Anthony Rocco, Martin and Dober, and he outgrappled good defenders on the mat and in the clinch like Diego Ferreira and Jim Miller, Thiago Moises. So we know that he's good on the ground. Now on the feet, I think it's safe to say that he's steadily improved. He's not great, but he has steadily improved. As far as his fighting style, he's packed a lot of power, as we saw when he KO'd James Vick. He's also developed strong pressure in his kickboxing game. Now, if we're talking about weaknesses in particular, honestly, I think the main one is just his lack of natural athleticism. I just don't think that he's the quickest or most explosive fighter, and that has gotten him into a lot of trouble before. If you take his fight, for example, with his losses to Edson Barbosa or Alex Hernandez, those were kind of showing his lack of athleticism there. So bottom line for this fight, although I did mention Dariush's weaknesses, I'm not really worried about them becoming an issue for him in this fight. I think as long as Dariush can kind of avoid being drawn into a brawl here, then he should be fine. Also, I do wonder that, like, if he focuses on the takedown as much as he did against Dober, then we will be seeing will we be seeing a routine first or second round submission for him? And that's something that we should question in this fight. So I'm ultimately going to go with Dariush by KO TKO, perhaps a decision, but I really want to see it by finish. So that's what I'm going to go with, Dariush by finish. Let me know who you guys have in the chat. John Adams says, Triple C, please. Jim Snow says, what the fuck? When are the weigh-ins? Says Ibrahim Murad. That's a good question. So the fight is actually 5:30 a.m. Eastern time is when the prelim starts. So the weigh-ins had to have already, well, they have to happen by tomorrow around the same time, right? I would think. Rapid Shot says, spit on me and tell me how worthless I am. That's a horrible thing to say. Something funny says, tomorrow. Jim Snow, what the fuck? Good point. He does seem to run out of steam, so to say, says Shady Shadows. Blair Harris says, what is Kobe's weight? That's a good question. Jim Snow says, what's up with Diaz? Jim Snow, we talked about it a little earlier in the stream. If you want to go back and watch it, I'll just brief it for you real quick. Nate Diaz has made a social media post that he tested for enhanced levels of some type of steroid or substance, that or an illegal substance, and we don't really know if it's a false positive or not, but we know that he's tested positive, so something to keep an eye out for. We don't know if UFC 244 is still on for the BMF belt, Diaz versus Masvidal, but we'll see. But that being said, why don't we move on to the next fight of the main card, the co-main event, Michael Johnson versus Stevie Ray. Michael Johnson is currently on a one-fight losing streak. He did take a loss in his last fight against Josh Emmett, I believe. And his pro MMA record is 19-14-0. Now, the last time we saw Johnson was in his fight with Emmett. The pace was pretty slow in that fight. There was no doubt that Johnson was kind of picking Emmett apart, using his speed and his movement, but then Emmett landed a huge shot on Johnson, which kind of knocked his head to the moon, and that was it for Johnson in that fight. Now, that loss was actually enough to send Johnson back up to 155 pounds, which I think personally could be good for him. Some could argue that it's not, but I think it is. I really believe that this could be a decent opportunity for him to bounce back. We've seen it before with fighters who have been on a lower weight cut or a lower weight division where they belong in a higher division, and they just do far more superior in that higher division. So I do believe that this could be his opportunity to bounce back. Also, remember that Johnson can be drawn into a brawl, which is another weakness that has stopped him from becoming a title contender, because it's kind of stopped him in fights before, so he's going to have to be careful with that, especially against someone like Stevie Ray, who is coming off of a loss. Now, Stevie Ray's record is 22-9-0, and his last fight was in June of this year against Paddy Pimblett, and he won by inside heel hook, so we know this guy is really good on the ground, but he's also an incredible striker. Now, Ray has been fighting professionally since 2010, and he debuted in the UFC back in 2015. He went on a strong streak of 5-1 before his loss to Paul Felder, but Paul Felder is pretty good inside the cage, so you can't really shit on him for that. Then there was the contract dispute that took place in between that time, and then he returned back in 2018 with a new contract with the UFC. he seemed to be doing all right. Since then, he's gone 1-2. So unfortunately, he did take 2 losses after that new UFC contract was signed. He suffered a KO loss to Leonardo Santos, and then he got back into the win column against Pimblett back in June, like I just mentioned, the fight that he had just come off of. Now, Ray is not the best wrestler in the 155-pound division, nor is he the best striker. He doesn't hit remarkably hard. He's not incredibly fast, but he has the ability to take care of himself if he needs to. But I do feel that something that we can give him as a strength is that the guy is just a tough fighter. He's fucking tough. He can take a shot. He puts everything together well with some extremely strong cardio, and I think that's really going to aid him in this fight. So I think bottom line for this fight, Ray versus Johnson, for me, I don't think that alone will be enough to take him past Johnson. Johnson is somewhat chinny. He's definitely inconsistent, meaning that Ray does have a puncher's chance here. Like I said, he's not the greatest striker, but he has the puncher's chance. And at Johnson's best, I would argue that he's one of the most nimble strikers in the division, which could put him at an advantage because he would be faster than Ray. Something else to keep in mind is, aside from his speed, Johnson throws a lot of combinations from sneaky angles. He cuts inside, delivers rapid punches that land with impressive power. We saw this when he knocked out Dustin Poirier back in 2016. In the end, I honestly see this one going with Johnson. He's probably going to dart in and out, pick apart Ray. Ray's probably going to have a few counter strikes there, but I think Johnson's going to avoid them. And honestly, unless Johnson makes a real error in this fight, for me, this is Johnson's fight, and I'm going to give him a decision. I don't think he's going to finish this fight, but I think it's going to be a decision. So let me know who you guys have in the chat, Johnson or Stevie Ray. Andrew Lopez says, did you see that knockout he suffered, though? I did, and I do know what you're talking about. I just still feel Johnson's going to take the win here. Jarkoff says, Trent, Crumpty Dome, if Nate really got popped, he ain't fighting anytime soon. Blair Harris says, Kobe is the only one that needs the BMF the most. Blair Harris says, Mass Kobe, Nate Connor, January 18th for Khabib in March. Winners of January and March will match up with Mass then. Ibrahim says, time for weigh-ins in Eastern. That's a good question. So I know that the actual fight card starts at 5:30 a.m. Eastern time, the preliminary, so I would assume that the weigh-ins are probably going to be on that 24-hour note, so they'll probably be pretty early in the morning Eastern time. But you can go to the UFC YouTube channel, and they'll probably have it scheduled for you, or MMA Fighting. I think they will do that for you as well, and you can take a look there. I currently don't know the time for the weigh-ins. All right, guys, we have one more fight, your main event of the evening of UFC Singapore, and that is Demian Maia versus Ben Askren. Now, this is an extremely exciting fight for any wrestling fan, any grappling fan. Like, this is a grappling fan's dream right here, this fight. Demian Maia versus Ben Askren. Maia is currently on a 2-fight winning streak coming, and as a pro MMA record of 27-9-0, and his last fight was in June against Anthony Rocco Martin. He did win by majority decision, but there was a little bit of controversy in that fight, I think. Now, Maia is on a 2-fight winning streak, but he's 41 years old. And at 41, there's always a question of how much does he really have left in the tank? Is he falling out of his prime? And some could argue that he is. Some could argue that he's not. Stylistically speaking, I think if we're asking, can Maia strike? Sure. He has improved dramatically over the decades. Plus, he does, he now throws combinations well. He's got a semi-decent jab. He isn't terrible with his kicks either, but we all know that he's superior on the ground. As far as weaknesses are concerned, he is rather slow for welterweight, and that's something that we're going to have to pay attention to. He doesn't really carry that KO power, so even if his striking has improved, he probably won't be able to KO Ben Askren like Jorge Masvidal did with his knee. And Maia does tend to gas out in his fights that see him strike for extended periods of time, which is also concerning. So if Ben Askren decides to keep this on the feet, Maia could very well strike or gas out by perhaps the 3rd or 4th round. Now, we all know Maia is not going to keep this fight on the feet. We know he's going to try and keep it on the ground. So something to keep in mind is that he's a very, very different grappler than that of Askren. But I really feel it shouldn't matter too much here because even with their different styles on the ground, it's still going to make for an interesting fight. Now let's talk about Ben Askren coming off of one loss. We all know that was to Jorge Masvidal when Masvidal came in with a flying knee, knocked Askren out. I mean, that was an insane knockout that we saw. It happened within like 5 seconds of the first round. It was insane. Askren does have a 19-1-0 with 1 no contest record. So for Askren, practically everything is on the line here. Since arriving to the UFC, like I said, he was almost KO'd by Robbie Lawler, and then he kind of like came back to life in some bizarre way, only to somehow get up and manage to submit Robbie Lawler with the bulldog choke. But it was controversial because Lawler didn't really tap, and he was never really out. So there was a lot of controversy there. His second fight, as I mentioned, we saw him take the flying knee from Jorge Masvidal, and he suffered his first career loss, which was pretty detrimental and embarrassing for him. It was extremely embarrassing for him. And if he wasn't embarrassed, I'm embarrassed for him. Now, I actually think that this fight against Demian Maia is a good fight for Askren. And I know a lot of people who don't like to see two grapplers or two wrestlers go at it, kind of get bored with fights. I'm the same way. I don't like seeing too much. If there's not much happening, it bores me. But this, I think, is going to be a good fight. Obviously, as far as strengths are concerned for Askren's wrestling and grappling style are his biggest ones. His weaknesses is clearly his striking. You could say the same thing for Maia, but I think Maia has improved a little bit more than Askren. Askren looks a little bit more robotic on his feet. Also, while his chin isn't necessarily bad, the fact that he doesn't really defend or defend his head or protect his head isn't great, and it often means that he's wide open and able to get hurt by his opponent. But this time, he's not against a dangerous striker. He's against a fellow grappler, so I think a lot of this fight is going to be taking place on the ground, and he won't really have to worry about the striking that takes place in this fight. So bottom line for this fight, I really feel that Askren is more likely to dive into Maia's wheelhouse here. I think this can potentially be a dangerous fight for him, but it's not like he hasn't done it before. He has. For me, this should likely come down to the question of whether or not Askren can use his wrestling style, which relies heavily on scrambles, risky moves that involve giving up a position at times of unorthodox takedowns, to wear out Maia without landing a submission. Given that the majority of Maia's submissions happen from him taking the back, particularly in the later stage of his career, and the fact that we have also seen him gas out on numerous occasions, even in 3-rounders, like if you take the fight against McDonald's, that was a 3-rounder and he was starting to gas out towards the 3rd round. I'm willing to bet that Askren can take those risks and wear Maia out for a decision win. So honestly, I'm going to go with Askren on this fight. Would I like to see Maia win? Absolutely. I think that would be a great win for him, and I think it would look incredible for him on his career to win against someone like Askren. But I really think Askren's going to take this one by decision. Let me know who you guys have. Oh, don't let me know yet. Oh, we lost it again. Every time we switch over here, we lose it. Here we go. True Grit.
You can't stop the Siberian Express. Choo-choo, motherfuckers.
Does it make me gay that I'm hyper excited about seeing Askren and Maia grapple?
Gaylord.
Not at all.
Gaylord. Gaylord.
Concussion.
I don't think so.
Gaylord.
That's a good question. Drunk Savage says agree. JBH by Knockout Ma says Michael Kiwihow. Andrew Lopez says I understand that. Post resurrected or reloaded says Me and Maia for the win. Fuck Curly Sue. Niall Flanagan, his chin had to be affected by that last KO. Drunk Savage, it doesn't help. Sean Hart says
Gaylord.
Yes, says Flat Earth Deacon. Yes, Fukyu fighting. Laylo Erm says an Askren L would be the end of him. Sean Hart says True Grit with a laughing face. Lurk Works says JBH. Who is the hottest fighter? Male or female? Who is the hottest fighter? That's a good question. If it's female, who would be the hottest female fighter? We don't have a lot of like very pretty female fighters, but there are some. That's a good question, man. Maia better on the feet, questionable in the ground. Jay McCracken says run train. Shady Shadow is going to have to go with Askren. He's not that bad of a fighter. Flatter says Askren will be an announcer soon. Jerk off Ben Askren by KO. Male, Paulo Costa. Nah, I don't know. I don't think so. Brian Ortega for male. He's a pretty attractive fighter. Drunk Savage says JBH wants to say Paulo Costa. Nah. Rachel Ostovich, she's pretty. She's very pretty. Blair Harris says, mark my words, it'll be Mass versus Colby. Jermaine is hot. Shevchenko. It's funny, Incognito. A lot of people are actually saying Shevchenko. Misha Tate. She's gorgeous. Yeah, I would say Misha Tate's probably the hottest female fighter. Yeah. I can't think of any other female fighter that... I mean, Paige Van Zant's very pretty. I don't know if she beats... Misha Tate's very pretty. But Paige Van Zant would be a top contender for sure. All right, guys. That is your fight briefing for UFC Singapore or UFC Fight Night 162. That is happening this weekend on Saturday, but it's happening Saturday morning. Do not forget. A lot of people missed the last time that the fights were off time. This is taking place in Singapore. So the prelims will be taking place at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The main card will start at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, before I go, guys, I do have some packages from you guys. Fan mail time. Alright. Fan mail time, guys. And also, I was thinking of maybe doing a gaming stream later because I want to play Fortnite, and Moss is probably going to tell me, why don't you stream it? So, I'm not confirming it or not, but I do want to play Fortnite later. But I have to make dinner, so I probably won't. I don't know. We'll see. Stay tuned. Second channel, link in the description below. I've got some fan mail I'm going to open up here. If possible, if a gay UFC fighter had a boyfriend who was on steroids and then dumped in his butt, could he come up positive? That's a good question, John Ref. All right. Mail time. Let's see who this is from. Someone tell me so I can know whose name to put on here. I got the Kiss of Death. Now, it's funny you say you got this, whoever got this, because I was going to get this. I love this. It reminded me of me and Moss. We could put me and Moss in the village. So thank you, guys. Whoever got this for me, let me know, and I will throw it in. Unless this is from you, Drunk. Is this from you? Let me know. All right. So there's one. I'm going to open up these really quickly. And then, like I said, link in the description to the second channel. I might go live again tonight to play Fortnite, but no promises because I do have to make dinner. So I don't know what time it'll be by the time I get done. All right, last thing. Man, let me know what you guys think about the whole Nate Diaz situation. Do you think that the fight is still on? Oh, it's from you, Drunk. All right, I'll write it. And I know who these are from. These are from Ann H. She ended up sending them back. So thank you, Ann H. and Mike H. I appreciate it. And one more. I don't know who this is from. Yeah, I can sure you could call it that, but listen, you're just jealous because you're not part of the village. If you want to be part of the village that bad, there's a link in the description. This is the last day it's going to be on there. All right, mail time. Last fan mail that I'm opening. Oh, did you see what happened? All right. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, this is a big one. Oh, no! It's a good one. Hold on. Oh, it's Batgirl.
Hey, I can see your underwear. Put your boobies in the air. Flapping like I just don't care. Can I lick your pubic hair? Snap a picture, time to share. Took my meat vision impaired. Filthy mind, I need a prayer. Pervert cameraman, beware. Pervert cameraman, show them tits. Pervert cameraman, $10 tip. Pervert cameraman, Yanni Celeste. Pervert cameraman, show them breasts. Boobies.
Batgirl.
From Funko Pop Ultimate Fighting Championship, Conor McGregor, multicolor.
Oh,
from
no
MLS.
Way. Okay, I'll keep an eye out for it, and I'll let Moss know that it is for him. A pop. That's interesting. Oh, is it those big like bobblehead type things? I'll let Moss know to keep an eye out for it. This is from Frank Bavon also. the spooky town is going to go into our village tonight. So thank you all who have donated to the Halloween village this year. The village will be open up again next year. This is the last day that the link will be in the description. Thank you guys so much for contributing. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking to me about Nate Diaz. Thank you for talking to Moss when he was here. Like I said, I will be here, or hopefully be here again tonight sometime, but we do have to get ready for CES tomorrow, so no promises. I'm not going to throw it out there that there's any promises. I do have to make dinner still. But maybe I'll play a Fortnite game or two tonight. Other than that, guys, stay fresh, stay queer, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Anyways, guys, it was great to see you guys here tonight. And as always, don't be an a-hole, be an MMA-hole.
John Jones, crash the show. 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 John Jones, crash the show.
Batgirl! Batgirl?
From Funko Pop, Ultimate Fighting Championship, Habeeb
Habeeb!
Nurmagomedov, Multicolor, for JBH.
That's my girl! Batgirl! She interrupted the outro to tell us that Habeeb is on his way. Batgirl! Alright, guys.
Wonderful.
Woo! I almost left the show without Batgirl's donation. Alright, guys. Now I'm going to call it quits. You know what to do. Link in the description to the second channel. Subscribe. You never know when we're going to be live. We'll hang out with you guys. It's a little more personal over there. And tune in tomorrow. We'll be live for CES, where we will be seeing William Knight fight and a bunch of others. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be wonderful.
Wonderful.
Don't be an a-hole. Be an MMA-hole.